Proverbs have long served as a source of wisdom, guidance, and spiritual enlightenment for believers across the world. Yet many of us may not fully appreciate the depth of these ancient sayings. The complete story of Proverbs you've never seen before invites us to uncover the richness behind these brief yet profound statements. They are not merely words of advice or common sayings, but divine lessons crafted to shape our lives, transform our hearts, and lead us closer to God's will. By examining these timeless proverbs through a deeper spiritual lens, we discover not only the practical wisdom they offer, but also their eternal relevance in our lives today. These proverbs are far more than just cultural expressions. They hold the keys to understanding God's heart, His principles, and His plan for our lives. As we explore their layers, we begin to see the profound connection between divine wisdom and everyday choices, reminding us that God's Word is not just for the past, but for the present and future, guiding us toward truth, peace, and restoration. Number 1. The Proverbs as a divine guide. The book of Proverbs is more than a simple collection of sayings. It is a divine blueprint for living a life grounded in faith, wisdom, and moral integrity. These verses, inspired by God, offer practical guidance that transcends time, teaching us how to navigate life's complexities with clarity and spiritual insight. Through Proverbs, we are invited to live in alignment with God's will, trusting in His wisdom and finding strength in His promises. Proverbs begins with a foundational truth. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Proverbs 1:7. This reverence for God is not based on fear in the human sense, but on awe and respect for His sovereignty and love. True wisdom flows from this recognition, transforming our hearts and minds to align with His divine perspective. It is an invitation to submit our lives to His guidance, trusting that He knows what is best for us. And you. One of the central themes of Proverbs is trust in God. Proverbs 3 verses 5 through 6 offers a timeless reminder. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. These verses challenge us to surrender our plans, fears, and uncertainties to God. It is not an easy task, as human nature often urges us to rely on our own understanding. Yet Proverbs assures us that when we trust God wholeheartedly, He will direct our steps and lead us in paths of righteousness. Proverbs also teaches us the value of moral integrity. It warns against pride, deceit, and laziness, encouraging humility, honesty, and diligence instead. Proverbs 16:18 states, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Pride blinds us to our dependence on God and distances us from His grace. Humility, on the other hand, opens the door to His blessings, allowing us to live in harmony with His purpose. Diligence, as emphasized throughout Proverbs, reflects our commitment to using our God-given talents to glorify Him and serve others. Relationships are another critical focus of Proverbs. The way we treat others reflects our understanding of God's love. Proverbs 15:1 reminds us, "A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Kindness, patience, and forgiveness are essential virtues that strengthen bonds and heal broken relationships. By living out these principles, we reflect God's character to those around us, becoming instruments of His peace. Proverbs also addresses the importance of speech. Words have the power to build up or tear down, and the book offers wisdom on using our words wisely. Proverbs 18:21 states, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." This verse is a sobering reminder of the responsibility we bear when we speak. By choosing words that encourage, comfort, and guide, we can be a source of life and hope to others. Finally, the book of Proverbs invites us to consider the eternal perspective. It reminds us that earthly possessions and achievements are fleeting, but the pursuit of righteousness and godly wisdom leads to lasting fulfillment. Proverbs 11:04 declares, "Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death." This verse points to the ultimate truth, that our relationship with God is the only treasure that endures beyond this life. The wisdom of Proverbs is not just theoretical, it is deeply practical and transformative. It calls us to trust in God, walk in humility, and live with integrity. It challenges us to build relationships that reflect His love and to speak words that bring life. It reminds us to seek eternal treasures rather than temporary gains. In a world filled with confusion and uncertainty, Proverbs offers a clear and unwavering guide. Its lessons are a call to action, a call to live differently, to think differently, and to love differently. When we embrace the wisdom of Proverbs, we not only enrich our own lives, but also become beacons of light in a dark world. Will you choose to walk in this wisdom? Will you accept the divine invitation to trust God, live righteously, and reflect His love in all you do? The journey may not always be easy, but Proverbs assures us that it is the path to true joy, peace, and purpose, a life rooted in the unfailing love of God. Number 2. The fear of the Lord, the pathway to true wisdom and peace. The fear of the Lord, as presented in the book of Proverbs, is a profound and essential concept rooted in biblical wisdom. It serves as the foundation for attaining true wisdom and living a life of fullness and purpose. Understanding this principle in both its spiritual and practical dimensions reveals its transformative power. In Proverbs, the fear of the Lord does not imply dread or terror. Instead, it signifies a deep reverence, awe, and recognition of God's absolute holiness and sovereignty. It reflects an attitude of profound respect for His power and majesty, coupled with an acknowledgement of humanity's complete dependence on Him. This fear leads to a healthy reverence and a heart willing to obey. Unlike ordinary fear, which often results in avoidance or self-preservation, the fear of the Lord inspires trust, submission, and devotion. It is an awareness of God's perfect nature, His righteousness, and His justice, which compels believers to align their lives with His will. This holy fear serves as a gateway to understanding, guiding us into a life of wisdom and obedience. The fear of the Lord is described in Proverbs 1:7 as the beginning of wisdom. This statement underscores that all true wisdom originates from a reverent relationship with God. Without this foundation, human understanding becomes shallow and self-serving. It is through the fear of the Lord that individuals gain the ability to discern truth, make righteous judgments, and navigate life's complexities with integrity. This divine wisdom, rooted in reverence for God, enables believers to see the world through His perspective. It reveals the truth about ourselves and the universe around us, calling us to live humbly and obediently. By cultivating this fear, we open ourselves to divine insight, allowing God to shape our character and guide our decisions. The fear of the Lord not only fosters spiritual growth, but also enhances intellectual understanding. Proverbs 2:05 declares that through this fear one gains knowledge of God and understanding. As believers grow in reverence, they develop a deeper awareness of His holiness and justice. This understanding equips them to make wise choices and distinguish between right and wrong. Moreover, the fear of the Lord serves as the key to unlocking deeper truths about life. It enlightens the mind and heart, allowing believers to grasp spiritual realities that transcend human reasoning. This clarity of vision enables them to approach life with discernment and purpose. In practical terms, the fear of the Lord profoundly impacts daily living. Those who revere God choose to live in obedience and righteousness, avoiding actions that dishonor Him. This fear encourages a life of integrity, where every decision reflects a commitment to God's standards. It also fosters trust in God's guidance. A heart that fears the Lord recognizes His authority and wisdom, relying on His direction in every aspect of life. This trust leads to a path of justice and truth, where believers walk confidently in His ways. Humility is another natural outgrowth of the fear of the Lord. When individuals truly grasp the greatness of God, they also recognize their own limitations and imperfections. This awareness cultivates a spirit of humility, prompting them to submit to God's will and seek His instruction. Proverbs 9:10 reinforces this connection. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. Here, humility and reverence are depicted as prerequisites for receiving divine insight. Those who approach God with a humble and teachable heart are positioned to receive His guidance and illumination. Furthermore, the fear of the Lord brings profound peace. In a world filled with uncertainty and trials, reverence for God offers a source of security. Those who fear Him rest in the assurance that He is sovereign over all circumstances and that His purposes will prevail. Proverbs 1:9-23 highlights this truth. The fear of the Lord leads to life, then one rests content, untouched by trouble. This verse illustrates how the fear of the Lord not only imparts wisdom, but also provides a deep sense of peace and stability. Even in the midst of challenges, believers who revere God find solace in His presence and trust in His provision. Ultimately, the fear of the Lord transforms lives. It aligns the heart and mind with God's purposes, fostering wisdom, humility, and peace. It is a principle that calls believers to a higher standard, inviting them to live in awe of their Creator and in accordance with His divine will. As we embrace the fear of the Lord, we embark on a journey of spiritual renewal. This holy reverence shapes our decisions, guides our actions, and strengthens our relationship with God. It is the foundation of true wisdom, the source of lasting peace, and the key to a life that honors Him. In the fear of the Lord, we find not only understanding, but also the fullness of life He desires for us. Number 3. Solomon, wisdom, wealth, and the lessons of a wayward heart. Solomon, the son of King David and Bathsheba, is one of the most renowned figures in biblical history. His life is a tapestry of extraordinary wisdom, immense wealth, and tragic missteps, offering profound lessons for every generation. Through his journey, as recorded in Scripture, we see the blessings of God's favor, the consequences of disobedience, and the enduring truths of life under heaven. When Solomon ascended to the throne of Israel, he was faced with the immense task of governing a nation in need of strong and wise leadership. In a pivotal moment, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and offered to grant him anything he asked. Solomon humbly requested a discerning heart to govern God's people, desiring wisdom over riches or power. Pleased by this selfless request, God not only granted Solomon unparalleled wisdom, but also blessed him with great wealth and honor. This divine gift of wisdom became evident early in his reign. One of the most famous demonstrations of Solomon's insight was his judgment in the case of two women who both claimed to be the mother of the same child. Solomon proposed an unthinkable solution: to divide the child in two, and in doing so, reveal the true mother's love and sacrifice. This decision solidified his reputation as a king endowed with divine understanding and justice. Under Solomon's leadership, Israel reached unprecedented levels of prosperity and peace. His reign was marked by monumental achievements, none more significant than the construction of the Temple in Jerusalem. This grand structure, built as a dwelling place for God, symbolized Israel's devotion and Solomon's commitment to honoring the Lord. He collaborated with neighboring nations, such as Tyre, securing materials of the highest quality to complete the temple. The dedication of the temple was a moment of spiritual significance, as Solomon prayed for God's presence to fill it and for His favor to rest upon His people. Yet, despite his wisdom and accomplishments, Solomon's heart gradually drifted from God. His political alliances with foreign nations often involved marrying their princesses, a common practice for securing peace and trade. Over time, these marriages led to compromises in his faith. Solomon allowed his foreign wives to worship their gods and even built altars to these idols, practices strictly forbidden by the law of the Lord. And the way God was going to approach us has always been more important to us than secession. This turning point in Solomon's life revealed a tragic truth: even the wisest can fall when their devotion to God is diluted. His heart, once wholly devoted to the Lord, became divided. He pursued wealth, pleasure, and power, yet these pursuits ultimately left him empty. Solomon's actions not only grieved God, but also sowed seeds of division within the kingdom, leading to its eventual fracture after his death. God, in His justice, confronted Solomon about his disobedience. The Lord declared that the kingdom would be torn away from Solomon's descendants, though not during his lifetime, out of respect for David, his father. This judgment served as a stark reminder that no amount of human wisdom or achievement can substitute for wholehearted obedience to God. As Solomon reflected on his life, he penned the book of Ecclesiastes, a sobering account of his search for meaning apart from God. In its pages, he explored the futility of earthly pursuits, wealth, knowledge, pleasure, and toil, all of which he found to be vanity and chasing after the wind. Despite his vast accomplishments and unparalleled resources, Solomon recognized that life without God is ultimately empty. Through his reflections, Solomon arrived at an enduring truth. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and obedience to his commandments is the whole duty of man. These words, penned near the end of his life, serve as both a warning and an encouragement. They remind us that true fulfillment comes not from the fleeting treasures of this world, but from a life centered on God. The story of Solomon is a powerful testament to the blessings of seeking God's wisdom, the dangers of compromising faith, and the hope of redemption through repentance. His life calls us to examine our own hearts and to prioritize our relationship with the Lord above all else. In the end, Solomon's legacy is not only one of wealth and wisdom, but also a cautionary tale of what happens when we allow the allure of the world to draw us away from the one who gives life its true purpose. As we reflect on Solomon's journey, we are reminded of the profound words he wrote. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come. This timeless exhortation urges us to seek God while we can, to live with eternity in mind, and to trust in His guidance through every season of life. Solomon's story may be marked by both triumph and failure, but it ultimately points us to the enduring faithfulness of God and the eternal value of walking in His ways. Number 4. The power of relationships. Lessons from Proverbs. Relationships hold immense importance in shaping human actions, decisions, and spiritual growth. The lessons drawn from Scripture emphasize that wise friends and mentors not only guide us along the right path, but also protect us from destructive mistakes. These relationships, when built on godly wisdom, can strengthen our faith and lead us closer to God. In Proverbs, we are reminded of the value of choosing friends and mentors wisely. Proverbs 13:20 states, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." This highlights the profound influence our companions have on our thoughts and actions. Wise friends are like guardrails on a winding road, warning us when we stray, encouraging us to pursue righteousness, and keeping us rooted in the wisdom of God. They inspire us to grow morally and spiritually, shaping our character in alignment with God's will. However, not all relationships yield positive results. The Bible also cautions against the dangers of associating with negative influences. King Solomon's life serves as a striking example of how destructive relationships can lead even the wisest individuals astray. Despite being renowned for his unparalleled wisdom, Solomon allowed his relationships with foreign wives and political alliances to draw him away from God. In 1 Kings 11:04, we read, "As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods." These relationships diverted Solomon's loyalty from the Lord, leading him into idolatry and disobedience. This tragic account underscores that no matter how wise or strong an individual may appear, they are not immune to the corrupting power of harmful relationships. When we fail to maintain godly connections and guard against negative influences, we risk spiritual ruin and separation from God's truth. While the Bible warns of destructive relationships, it also offers hope and encouragement to cultivate positive, life-giving connections. Proverbs 27:17 declares, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." This vivid imagery portrays the mutual benefit of a healthy friendship, where accountability and encouragement refine and strengthen individuals. A good friend not only stands by us during challenges, but also pushes us towards spiritual growth and greater faithfulness to God. Proverbs 27:9 adds, "Perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice." Genuine friends, those who speak truth in love, bring comfort, joy, and guidance. Their words, grounded in sincerity and godly wisdom, uplift the soul and provide clarity in moments of uncertainty. The lessons from Proverbs call us to intentionally build relationships that align with God's design for community. Surrounding ourselves with those who seek the Lord strengthens our faith and helps us navigate the trials of life with courage and perseverance. At the same time, we must remain vigilant, avoiding connections that compromise our values and hinder our spiritual walk. True relationships, rooted in love and accountability, reflect the heart of God's plan for humanity. They teach us to love, encourage, and uplift one another in the faith, fostering a community where His truth is lived and shared. When we embrace the wisdom of Proverbs, we discover the transformative power of relationships that lead us closer to the Lord and His purpose for our lives. Number 5, the power of words, a force for good or harm. Words possess a power far beyond what we often realize. As the proverb says, words are free, but the right ones can cost you, emphasizing that the words we speak have the potential to profoundly impact our lives and the lives of others. Words can heal or hurt, build or destroy, and their influence extends far beyond the moment they are spoken. Words can inflict harm or bring healing. Words that harm. Words can wound the spirit and emotions of others in ways that last much longer than the moment they are spoken. Negative words, criticisms, or attacks on a person's character can shatter self-esteem, causing long-term emotional scars. These words, once spoken, can destroy trust and even lead to the breakdown of relationships, be it in families, friendships, or workplaces. Words that heal. Conversely, positive words can soothe the pain of others and encourage them to overcome difficulties. Words of encouragement, sincere praise, and comforting phrases can make others feel loved and valued. Words are a powerful tool for restoring spirits and mending broken relationships. They have the potential to uplift, inspire, and provide strength during times of need. Wisdom in using words. Choosing words wisely. One of the hallmarks of wisdom is the ability to choose words carefully. This includes knowing when to remain silent, when to speak, and how to express oneself in a way that fosters peace and understanding. Wise words not only resolve conflicts, but also build respect and love within relationships. They serve as bridges to reconciliation and healing, leading to stronger, more harmonious bonds. The lasting impact. Words don't just affect the present, they shape the future as well. The words we choose can either build trust or erode it. The influence of words is a continuous process, capable of strengthening or destroying relationships over time. What we say today can ripple through the years, affecting how we are remembered and the legacy we leave behind. Words and relationships. Building relationships. Words are the key to communication and the foundation of strong relationships. Compliments, shared emotions, and expressions of empathy create lasting bonds that are based on mutual respect and love. Through our words, we can either draw closer to others or create distance, depending on the care and intention behind our speech. Preventing conflict. Choosing words thoughtfully helps avoid misunderstandings and reduces the likelihood of conflict. A well-chosen word can dissolve tension and resolve disputes, offering a peaceful path forward. Conversely, harsh words can escalate disagreements, making reconciliation more difficult. Therefore, the careful selection of words can make all the difference in preventing strife and nurturing unity. The power of words in everyday life. Personal growth. Self-talk is one of the most powerful tools for transformation. The words we say to ourselves, whether negative or positive, greatly influence our self-esteem and confidence. Encouraging and uplifting self-talk can spur us on to grow, develop, and face challenges with determination. It's essential to be mindful of the words we use when speaking to ourselves, as they shape our attitude and approach to life. The power in leadership. Leaders wield the power of words to inspire, motivate, and create a positive environment. A well-timed word of encouragement can lift the spirits of a team and ignite their passion toward a common goal. Inspirational speeches and calls to action can galvanize people to work together and make meaningful change. Words, in the hands of a wise leader, are a powerful force for good. Techniques for effective use of words. Listen before speaking. Before we speak, it's vital to understand the issue at hand. Active listening allows us to choose our words more thoughtfully, ensuring we respond appropriately. By listening first, we not only avoid misunderstandings, but also demonstrate respect for others' perspectives. Choose words carefully. Depending on the situation and the person we are addressing, it's essential to choose words that are gentle, understanding, and respectful. Avoiding harsh criticism or offensive language can help maintain harmony and build trust. Words should be used to uplift, not to tear down. Speak with sincerity. The most impactful words come from a place of genuine emotion. When we speak with authenticity, our words resonate more deeply with others. However, we must also be careful not to express ourselves in a way that might cause unintended harm. Sincere words, tempered with compassion and thoughtfulness, can profoundly touch hearts and create lasting change. The power of words in religion and tradition. Words in religion. Many religious traditions greatly emphasize the power of words. In Christianity, for example, the Bible teaches that the tongue has the power of life and death. Proverbs 18:21. Words have the potential to either bless or curse, to bring hope or despair. Through words, we are called to speak life, truth, and encouragement to one another, offering grace instead of judgment. Cultural traditions. In many cultures, words are symbols of authority, respect, and honor. The way we speak often reflects our character and the values we hold dear. In every tradition, language carries the weight of history and meaning, shaping the way we interact with others and the legacy we leave behind. The way we use our words speaks volumes about who we are and the impact we wish to have on the world. Number 6. Work, Wealth, and Integrity. Proverbs' Timeless Wisdom. The book of Proverbs, nestled in the Old Testament, offers timeless lessons on morality, right conduct, and practical guidance for living wisely. Among its many teachings, Proverbs emphasizes the importance of responsibility, diligence, and honesty, as well as the principles of wealth and integrity in work. These lessons serve as vital reminders for how believers should approach their everyday lives, both in their work and in their financial pursuits. First, Proverbs underscores the value of hard work and diligence. It encourages an attitude of perseverance and dedication, presenting diligence not merely as a positive trait, but as a necessary ingredient for success and divine blessing. Proverbs 6:6-8 exhorts the lazy person to observe the ant and learn from its industrious nature. Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. This passage teaches that even the smallest of creatures can be an example of how hard work and foresight are essential for survival and prosperity. Similarly, Proverbs 12:11 declares, "He who works his land will have abundant food, but he who chases fantasies lacks judgment." This verse reflects the reality that legitimate labor, rooted in purpose and diligence, yields rewards, while idle pursuits lead to lack and frustration. Proverbs teaches us that work is not simply for the sake of survival, but is a means of honoring God and serving others. Integrity and honesty are also core virtues throughout the book of Proverbs, particularly in relation to one's conduct in work and life. Proverbs highlights the blessings of living uprightly, while warning of the consequences of deceit and dishonesty. Proverbs 10:9 reminds us, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out." This emphasizes the security and peace that accompany those who live truthfully and openly, while those who engage in deceit will eventually face exposure. Proverbs 11:1 reinforces this truth, saying, "The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him." This verse calls us to integrity in all dealings, especially in business and work. God's favor is promised to those who act with honesty and fairness, while dishonesty leads to divine disapproval. Proverbs encourages us to avoid actions that are dishonest or corrupt, and to maintain a life of truth in all our relationships and endeavors. When it comes to wealth, Proverbs does not condemn the acquisition of riches, but offers a cautionary approach. It warns that the pursuit of wealth can easily become a trap if not handled wisely. Proverbs reminds us that greed and the desire for material wealth can lead to destructive behavior, including deceit and unethical actions. Proverbs 13:11 declares, "Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow." This shows that wealth gained through integrity and steady effort is enduring, whereas ill-gotten gains quickly vanish. In Proverbs 23:04-5, we are further warned about the fleeting nature of wealth. "Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Do not trust your own cleverness. Cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle." This passage speaks to the transient nature of material wealth, reminding us that money and possessions can disappear quickly and should not be the focus of our lives. It serves as a reminder to maintain perspective and avoid being consumed by the pursuit of riches. Additionally, Proverbs offers a crucial warning about the danger of wealth leading to self-sufficiency and spiritual complacency. The desire for riches can easily turn the heart away from God, leading one to forget the true source of all blessings. In Proverbs 38:9, the writer prays, "Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal, and so dishonor the name of my God." This verse reminds us of the importance of contentment and reliance on God. A balance of provision, neither too much nor too little, helps keep our hearts focused on God rather than the fleeting nature of wealth. Number 7, humility over pride. Wisdom from Proverbs. Humility is a profound moral virtue emphasized throughout the book of Proverbs, where the contrast between humility and pride is clearly presented. King Solomon's teachings serve as a guide, urging us to recognize our dependence on God and the dangers of exalting ourselves above others. The wisdom found in Proverbs helps us understand the importance of humility in our daily lives and warns us about the destructive power of pride. In Proverbs, humility is presented as a characteristic that God greatly values. Humility is more than just politeness. It is a right understanding of our position in relation to God and others. Proverbs 15:33 states, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and humility comes before honor." This verse teaches us that true wisdom begins when we acknowledge our imperfections and place ourselves before God in humility. It is only through recognizing our need for God that we can truly understand wisdom and accept His guidance. God's favor is often linked to the humble heart. Humility makes us open to His wisdom and guidance. Proverbs teaches us that the humble are favored by God, while those who are prideful and self-reliant face His judgment. The idea that humility precedes honor is not just a moral teaching, but a divine principle. We are reminded that no one should exalt themselves, for true honor comes from God alone. When we are humble, we place ourselves in a position to receive His blessings, which are far greater than anything we can achieve through our own efforts. Footnote: the book of Proverbs continuously warns about the consequences of pride. Pride is the attitude of thinking oneself superior to others or self-sufficient, believing that one can live without God's help. Proverbs 16:18 warns, "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." Pride is a pathway to destruction because it leads us to distance ourselves from God, relying on our own strength and abilities without recognizing our need for His direction in every situation. The Bible teaches that such pride is not just a flaw, but a sin that leads to spiritual downfall. Pride clouds our judgment, making us think we have control over everything, while in reality, we are wholly dependent on God. It blinds us to our weaknesses and causes us to overlook our need for His guidance and mercy. Even King Solomon, renowned for his wisdom, was not immune to the dangers of pride. In the early years of his reign, Solomon was gifted with unparalleled wisdom from God. However, as time passed, he became self-confident, forgetting the need for humility and dependence on God. He allowed his pride to creep in, which led him to make decisions that were not in line with God's will. This ultimately led to mistakes that disrupted his peace and relationship with God. In his later years, Solomon became more and more distracted by worldly pleasures and power. He relied less on God and more on his own understanding, which led him to fall into the trap of pride. His lawless temper resulted in the expulsion of friends and family. His patriotic triumph over spice transformed his life and led him to lose his life in the battle for Troy. Solomon's story is a cautionary tale for all of us. Despite his extraordinary wisdom and favor from God, his downfall came when he allowed pride to govern his decisions. The book of Proverbs reminds us of Solomon's missteps so that we may avoid the same pitfalls, keeping a humble heart and continually relying on God's guidance. Solomon's experience shows us that pride does not only affect our relationship with God, but also impacts our decisions, relationships, and well-being. When we allow pride to take root, it leads us further from God and brings chaos into our lives. Conversely, when we maintain humility, we create space for God's guidance and blessings. Humility, according to Proverbs, not only protects us from pride, but also brings us closer to God. Proverbs 3:34 teaches, "He mocks proud mockers, but shows favor to the humble and oppressed." Humility allows us to make room for God to work in our lives and to guide us. When we live humbly, we acknowledge our need for God's help in every area of life, which leads us to draw nearer to Him. Humility fosters a deep awareness of our dependence on God, enabling us to receive His wisdom and blessing. This relationship with God is the foundation for living wisely and peaceably. It is only when we surrender ourselves to God in humility that we can experience the fullness of His love and the depth of His wisdom. Humility also manifests in service to others. Proverbs 12:01 reminds us, "Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid." A humble person is teachable, willing to learn not only from God, but also from others. Humility requires us to serve others selflessly, following the example of Christ, who demonstrated ultimate humility through His life and sacrifice. Those who are humble seek to uplift others, recognizing that true greatness lies in serving rather than being served. The humble person is willing to submit to God's will, learn from mistakes, and help others along the way. Humility drives us to treat others with respect and kindness, understanding that all people are made in the image of God and deserve our love and compassion. Proverbs teaches that true wisdom is not just intellectual knowledge, but a heart that is humble, teachable, and willing to submit to God's direction. Humility opens our hearts to God's correction and instruction. It leads us to a deeper understanding of His will and a closer walk with Him. When we remain humble, we are more open to God's voice and more willing to follow His path. The prideful heart, on the other hand, is resistant to correction and prone to making foolish decisions that lead to spiritual destruction. In relationships, humility fosters peace and unity. When we practice humility, we recognize that we are all equally in need of God's grace. We do not elevate ourselves over others, but seek to serve and love them as Christ did. Humility helps us to put the needs of others before our own, which builds stronger and more loving communities. It calls us to be peacemakers and bridge builders in a world that often values power, status, and self-promotion. True humility brings great peace to the heart and mind. It frees us from the burden of constantly striving for recognition or success. When we walk in humility, we are content with who we are in Christ and trust in His timing and provision. Humility allows us to rest in God's grace, knowing that we do not need to prove ourselves to anyone. We can find security in His love and His plan for our lives, rather than in the fleeting approval of the world. Humility, as taught in Proverbs, is a powerful force that leads to wisdom, peace, and blessings. It is the key to living a life that honors God and benefits others. As we seek to follow the example of humility set by Christ, we open ourselves to a deeper relationship with God and a more meaningful existence. Humility is not a weakness, but a strength that comes from recognizing our dependence on God and living in alignment with His will. It is the path to true greatness in the eyes of God, a greatness that is built on service, love, and selflessness. Number 8. Trusting God completely, a journey of faith. The book of Proverbs, particularly in chapter 3, emphasizes the paramount importance of trusting God wholeheartedly, a trust that is unwavering and built upon a foundation of reverence and understanding of Him. This is a central theme in the Christian faith, requiring obedience and reliance on God without leaning on human wisdom or personal reasoning. It challenges believers to place their full confidence in God, knowing that His ways are always higher and better than our own. The principles of trusting God. Trusting God completely. Proverbs chapter 3. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. This passage teaches us that we should not rely on our limited understanding, but trust in the infinite wisdom of God. When faced with critical decisions in life, we are urged to seek His guidance through His Word and divine leading, rather than solely depending on personal viewpoints or past experiences. This complete trust in God's wisdom sets the stage for a life aligned with His will. Wisdom surpasses our understanding. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. This strong reminder urges us not to think of ourselves as wiser than God. True wisdom comes from Him, and when we fear the Lord and turn away from evil, we receive healing for our bodies and peace for our souls. It is a call to humble ourselves and acknowledge that God's wisdom and knowledge far exceed our own. Direction and peace from God. In Proverbs 3:5 and 6, we are promised that when we trust in the Lord and acknowledge Him in all our ways, He will guide our steps. This gives us peace that transcends the troubles and trials we face in life. Knowing that God is always present and in control of every situation brings a profound sense of tranquility, knowing that He will lead us in the right direction. Practical application in life, letting go of self-reliance. When faced with major decisions, we are encouraged to place our trust fully in God, not in our own abilities or knowledge. This is often a significant challenge, but when we do so, we experience the peace and direction that come from God's guidance. It is an act of surrender, a recognition that His plans are always better than our own. Listening and seeking God's guidance. Trusting God is not merely an external feeling. It is an active process of seeking His direction through prayer, studying His Word, and listening to the leading of the Holy Spirit. By doing so, we gain clarity and strength to navigate life's challenges. It is through this intimate relationship with God that we find the wisdom and power needed to walk in His ways. Trusting God's plan. When we trust in God's plan, even when we cannot fully understand what is happening in our lives, we can rest assured that He is working everything for our good. Trusting God's plan is the foundation of a life filled with faith and hope. It is a trust that holds firm in the knowledge that even in times of uncertainty, God has a beautiful and purposeful plan for us. In our everyday lives, the challenge of trusting God completely often requires us to step out in faith, leaving behind our own understanding. It's a call to embrace the unknown with confidence, knowing that God's direction is always the best. As we seek His wisdom and guidance, we are transformed, experiencing His peace that surpasses all understanding. Through this journey of trust, we learn to live out our faith with conviction, fully confident that God is in control and that His plan for our lives is perfect. I am in control, and God's plan for my life is perfect. Number 9. The power of self-control and anger in Proverbs. Anger is a powerful emotion that can have devastating consequences if not managed properly. The book of Proverbs speaks extensively about the dangers of unchecked anger and the importance of self-retrieve. Proverbs 14:29 offers a clear warning. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but whoever has a hasty temper exalts folly. This verse serves as a reminder of the destructive nature of uncontrolled anger, which often leads to regretful actions. Proverbs clarifies that those who fail to manage their anger are more likely to act foolishly, making decisions they later regret. Self-retrieval is presented as the key to managing anger effectively. In the Proverbs, self-retrieval is not merely about restraining one's temper, but involves a broader capacity to regulate emotions, words, and actions in every situation. Proverbs 25:28 states, A man without self-retrieval is like a city broken into and left without walls. This vivid image compares a person who lacks self-retrieval to a defenseless city, vulnerable to attack. Without the protection of self-discipline, a person is easily swayed by external circumstances and internal emotions, which can lead to poor choices and harm. The ability to control anger is especially important in preventing the emotional and relational damage resulting from outbursts. Proverbs 15:01 reminds us, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Here we are encouraged to respond to anger with gentleness rather than escalating the situation. In moments of distress, a calm and measured response has the power to diffuse hostility and prevent further damage. Proverbs 16:32 adds to this. "Better a patient person than a warrior, those with self-retrieve than those who take a city." The strength found in patience and self-retrieve is presented as greater than the power of physical conquest. The person who can master their anger is depicted as stronger than someone who can overpower a city. The benefits of self-retreatment are far-reaching. Proverbs teaches that controlling one's anger not only helps avoid personal harm, but also fosters peace in the soul and preserves relationships. Proverbs 19:11 highlights this wisdom. "A person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense." By choosing to overlook offenses and exercising patience, a person displays wisdom and character. Forgiving others and choosing peace over conflict are considered acts of honor and dignity in the eyes of God. Self-retribution, particularly in managing anger, is an essential component of living wisely and harmoniously with others. The book of Proverbs paints a clear picture. Those who practice self-retribution are able to navigate the challenges of life with greater peace and understanding. Rather than being led by their emotions, they are guided by wisdom and a commitment to maintaining healthy, loving relationships. This capacity for restraint is not only a reflection of inner strength, but also a mark of spiritual maturity. To develop self-resignation, Proverbs encourages us to trust in God and seek His guidance in all things. Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6 states, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." This passage reminds us that true wisdom and self-resignation come when we rely on God's direction rather than our own instincts. By submitting to God and seeking His will, we can find the strength to manage our emotions and actions in ways that honor Him. Ultimately, the pursuit of self-retrieve is not just about avoiding negative outcomes, but about embracing the peace and wisdom that come from living in alignment with God's principles. As we learn to manage our anger and practice patience, we become more like Christ, who exemplified perfect self-retrieve and forgiveness. Through this, we not only benefit personally, but also become a testimony to others of the transformative power of God's love and wisdom in our lives. In a world filled with anger and turmoil, the lessons found in Proverbs about anger and self-retreat offer us timeless guidance. By embracing these principles, we can experience the peace of God in our hearts and relationships, and in doing so, reflect His glory to the world around us. Number 10. Discipline, the path to wisdom and strength. The book of Proverbs in the Bible emphasizes that discipline is a vital element in leading a life of wisdom, aligned with God's ways. Discipline is not about harsh control or force, but rather a means through which we can cultivate good qualities, develop insight, patience, and perseverance in the face of challenges. Through discipline, we are not merely shaped into better individuals, but are also drawn closer to God's purpose for our lives. Discipline is the foundation of wisdom. Proverbs clarifies that discipline is a tool for sharpening our minds and understanding, leading to sound decision-making. Proverbs 12:01 states, "Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge," which reveals that practicing discipline opens the way to wisdom. When we adhere to the principles of discipline, we become more discerning in the choices we make and the actions we take. Discipline also helps us develop patience. It is not only about restraining bad actions, but also about nurturing the ability to wait, to endure, and to resist the impulse of rushing through decisions. Proverbs 14:29 teaches, "Whoever is patient has great understanding, but one who is quick-tempered displays folly." Discipline helps us master our emotions, remain patient through trials, and avoid impulsiveness in important decisions. This quality is essential for creating a stable and peaceful life. Discipline encourages self-reservation. In life, discipline can be understood as self-mastery, the ability to not be governed by temporary desires or fleeting emotions. Proverbs 25:28 says, "Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-reservation." A life without self-discipline is like a city without walls, easily invaded and destroyed. Discipline enables us to control ourselves and live according to God's will. Discipline forms resilience in the face of trials. It teaches us to confront and overcome difficulties. Proverbs 24:10 says, "If you falter in a time of trouble, how small is your strength?" This implies that discipline builds our endurance and strengthens our resolve. A disciplined person does not give up when faced with hardship, but continues to persevere, driven by patience and determination. Discipline extends beyond personal habits to the choice of friends and the environments we live in. Proverbs highlights that discipline also applies to how we select our companions and the circles we move in. Proverbs 13:20 warns, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Discipline helps us choose friends and environments that foster growth and maturity, aligning with those who can encourage us in godliness. Discipline is also necessary in balancing work and rest. Proverbs teaches that discipline involves knowing when to work hard and when to rest. Proverbs 23:4-5 advises, "Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Do not trust your own cleverness." Discipline helps us recognize the importance of rest and balance in our lives, ensuring we do not overwork ourselves at the cost of our health or well-being. Discipline is a form of self-love and protection. It is a way of safeguarding ourselves from poor decisions and sinful actions. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." A heart protected and guided by discipline leads to a full and happy life. It is an act of loving ourselves as we honor God's commands and safeguard our inner life. Finally, discipline is an essential part of obeying God. Proverbs teaches that discipline is intertwined with the correction and instruction of the Lord. Proverbs 3:11-12 says, "My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves." God's discipline is crucial in helping us grow and stay on the path He has set for us. Just as a parent lovingly corrects their child, so God's discipline is a sign of His love for us, guiding us toward maturity and faithfulness. Through discipline, we are not only shaped into wiser, stronger individuals, but we also come to understand and follow the ways of God. It is a process of constant refinement, a journey toward greater spiritual maturity. When we embrace discipline, we embrace the life God desires for us, a life of wisdom, patience, and steadfastness in faith. Number 11. Raising children with wisdom and love, a guide to godly parenting. The importance of raising children with wisdom and love is a key theme found in the book of Proverbs. It emphasizes the role of both teaching and living out godly principles as parents guide their children through life. Proverbs offers practical wisdom on how to approach parenting with patience, discipline, and compassion, ensuring that the next generation is equipped to walk in the ways of the Lord. First and foremost, Proverbs teaches that parents should serve as living examples to their children. It's not just the words of instruction that matter, but the way parents live. Children are keen observers, and their understanding of wisdom comes not just from what they hear, but from what they see in the lives of their parents. Proverbs 22:6 underscores this idea. "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." This verse highlights the importance of shaping children's hearts and minds according to their individual needs and dispositions, doing so with patience and consistency. Parents must not only teach the right path, but must model it daily in their actions. Encouraging children to listen and embrace wisdom is another key point in Proverbs. Wisdom is not something that children can passively acquire. It requires an intentional effort to listen and learn from the counsel of their parents. Proverbs 1:8-9 reminds us, "Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching, for they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck. Here we see that listening to and internalizing the wisdom imparted by parents is seen as something valuable, like precious adornments, offering children guidance for their entire lives. Discipline, according to Proverbs, is not a form of punishment, but a loving means of guiding children towards the right path. Proverbs 3:11-12 says, "My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, or be weary of his reproof. For the Lord reproves him whom he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights." Discipline is framed here as an act of love, not as an act of anger or frustration. It's about helping children understand their mistakes, correct their behavior, and grow in righteousness. The love behind discipline makes it a powerful tool in shaping a child's character. Parents are also called to give counsel and warning, guiding their children away from the dangers of life. Proverbs 4:1-4 emphasizes this responsibility. "Hear, O sons, a father's instruction, and be attentive, that you may gain insight, for I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teachings." The teachings of parents are meant to protect children, steering them away from the pitfalls of life and pointing them toward paths of safety and wisdom. Such guidance is not merely about avoiding harm, but about building a life that reflects the goodness and righteousness of God. Another significant truth found in Proverbs is the value of early education. The foundation laid in childhood often determines the course of a person's life. Proverbs 4:7 says, "The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight." Wisdom, acquired early in life, becomes a priceless asset, shaping a child's character and worldview. By instilling the principles of godly wisdom at a young age, parents help children develop a strong foundation that will guide them through the complexities of life. In sum, Proverbs presents a comprehensive and profound understanding of parenting. It challenges parents to be more than just instructors, but to be living examples of wisdom and love. It calls for intentional teaching, consistent discipline, and a heart of compassion. It underscores the value of early training and the lasting impact it can have on a child's life. Above all, Proverbs reminds us that true wisdom is rooted in the fear of the Lord. And it is this divine wisdom that parents are called to impart to their children. When parents raise their children with godly wisdom, they set them on a path that leads to a fruitful and fulfilling life in Christ. The full story behind Proverbs is not just a collection of wise sayings. It is a deeper reflection of God's eternal wisdom and guidance for our lives. Proverbs, often passed down through generations, offer insights that speak directly to the heart, teaching us about humility, patience, understanding, and the importance of living in harmony with God's will. These proverbs are not merely words on a page. They are divine lessons that illuminate our paths and help us navigate the complexities of life. In the Bible, Proverbs serve as reminders of the moral and spiritual truths that God desires for us to grasp. They teach us the value of discernment, the power of words, and the importance of fearing the Lord above all. Proverbs also encourage us to seek wisdom, to trust in God's timing, and to remain steadfast in our faith, even when faced with challenges. As we reflect on these timeless lessons, it's essential to understand that God's wisdom is ever present, waiting for us to embrace it fully. When we live by the truths embedded in Proverbs, we not only find personal fulfillment, but also become vessels through which God's love and wisdom can shine brightly in the world around us. If you've been inspired by these lessons, I invite you to follow and subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned for more thought-provoking reflections and biblical insights that will guide you in your spiritual journey. Together, let's continue to grow in wisdom and understanding.